Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Can I start with Kirtan?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, sure, please.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रत्यक्ष अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमती स्वामी ग्रसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। एवं विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रत्यक्ष अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद श्री गौर किशोर दास बाबा महाराज की जय। जय विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्रील भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर की जय। जय विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ जीव गोपाल भट्टदास अविनाश गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। आचार्य श्रीदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत दादर शिव साधि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिया श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बेंगलोरीश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगामाई की जय, अमनमाई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, कलश देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय, श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, ISKCON वर्तमान गुरु समावेत भक्तवृंद की गौर परिमानंद हरे, all glories to the assembled ones, all glories to the assembled ones, all glories to the assembled ones, all glories to Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं, देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। इष्टप्रायेषु भक्तेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया, भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपदाय श्रीमद्भगवद्गीता स्वामिने नमः। नमस्ते सारस्वती गौरवाणी आचार्य निर्विशेष शून्यवाद पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरवंतम। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome you all to this Saturday morning Srimad Bhagavatam summary study. We are today discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 1. The second part of Chapter 1, that is from text number 34 to text number 66. Moham Karudi Vacharam, Angam Nalini, Akpadam, Shiguram Tantanam, Marmanam, Shichaitanya Shrav. So far, we have seen how the descendants of daughters of Manu has been described, and the last 2-3 slokas were describing about the partial representations of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, who appeared as moon god, and Dattatreya and Durvasa Muni. Now we go from text number 34 onwards. Now, in this part of the chapter, we will find many names, and the importance or the relevance of trying to know these names will be discussed after going through some of the slokas as we will progress. Text number 34. I will read the Sanskrit verse only for some important verses. We'll go on with the translation because many of them don't have any purports. So text number 34 translation is, Angira's wife, Shraddha, gave birth to 4 daughters, namely Sinivali, Kuhu, Raka, and Anumati. Text 35. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Besides these 4 daughters, she also had another 2 sons. One of them was known as Uttaya, and the other was the learned scholar Brihaspati. Text number 37. Text number 36. Translation Srila Prabhupada here. Pulastya begotten his wife Avirbhu, one son of the name Agastya, who in his next birth became Dahragni. Besides him, Pulastya begot another very great and saintly son, whose name was Vishrava. Text 37. Translation Srila Prabhupada. Vishrava had 2 wives. The first wife was Idavida, from whom Kuvera, the master of all Yakshas, was born. And the next wife was named Keshini, from whom 3 sons were born, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. So in this respect, this Vishrava is one of the foremost in the Ravana dynasty, and is also the father of Ravana. We go to text number 38. Translation Srila Prabhupada. Gati, the wife of the sage Pulaha, gave birth to 3 sons named Karmashreshta, Varian, and Sahishnu, and all of them were great sages. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, the 5th daughter of Kardam Muni, she was very faithful to her husband, and all her sons were as good as his. As we all know, we have already discussed in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam the glories of Kardam Muni, who was a very great sage, and he married Devahuti, who was also a great yogi. And they gave birth to Lord Kapila, who was none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. We will not go into that detail today. Text number 39. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kratu's wife Kriya gave birth to 60,000 great sages named the Valakilyas. All these sages were greatly advanced in spiritual knowledge, and their bodies were illuminated by such knowledge. Kriya was the 6th daughter of Kardam Muni, and she produced 60,000 sages who were known as Valakilyas, because they all retired from family life as Vanaprastha life. So all these great personalities, they, after going through the various other ashramas, they took to Vanaprastha life. As you all know, Vanaprastha is the third order: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. Vanaprastha is a stage where generally sometimes husband and wife go together to the forest, and after passing of the Vanaprastha stage, the wife sometimes returned back. Many times also, it used to be that only the husband used to go and the wife used to be taken care of by the children. So this was established, system was established by none other than the Supreme Lord himself, which he declares in Bhagavad Gita. Text number 40. The great sage Vasishta begot in his wife Urja, sometimes called Arundhati, 7 spotlessly great sages, headed by the sage named Chitraketu. Text number 41. The names of these 7 sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulbana, Vasupradhyana, and Dhuman. Some other were competent sons were born from Vasishta's other wife, Patpot ki jai. Urja, who is sometimes known as Arundhati, was the wife of Asishta, was the 9th daughter of Kardamuni. So we see that many glorious personalities have appeared in this dynasty. Text number 42. Chitti, wife of the sage Atharva, gave birth to a son named Ashvashira by accepting a great vow called the Dhyancha. Now you may hear from me about the descendants of the sage Prabhu. The wife of Atharva, known as Chitti, is also known as Shanti. She was the 8th daughter of Kardamuni. So here the name Ashvashira is actually a horse. And there is a mention about this Ashvashira in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is said that Dadichi had actually great knowledge on the Brahmajnan and also the weapons, knowledge of the weapons. And he also knew how to perform fruitive activities. So one time the Ashwini Kumaras approached Indra first to attain this knowledge, and Indra refused, and he told the Ashwini Kumaras that anyone who gives this knowledge, I will cut off their head. So Dadichi then these Ashwini Kumaras went to Dadichi. Dadichi said that I am already engaged in many arranging sacrifices for many fruitive activities, come back a little later. So they approached Dadichi later, and then Dadichi said that I'm already the Ashwini Kumaras are already physicians of the heavenly planets. So there is no need to instruct, but if you impart spiritual science, then they will be punished. So the Ashwini Kumaras understood what was going to happen. And this time, Dadichi informed them that Indra's threat is not a big deal, because even if they cut off their head, the Ashwini Kumaras will replace the head. So what happened was, the Ashwini Kumaras cut off the head of Dadichi and replaced it with the head of a horse. And through the horse's head, the knowledge was given by Dadichi. And because this knowledge was given by a horse, the mantras are called Ashvashira. And when Indra came to know about it, he cut off the horse's head, and the Kumaras replaced it with a human head. And the Ashwini Kumaras were liberated by getting this knowledge. This is a small pastime in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text number 43. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The sage Prabhu was highly fortunate. In his wife known as Khyati, he begot 2 sons named Data and Vidata, and 1 daughter named Sri, who was very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Sri is none other than the expansion of the goddess of fortune. Text number 44. The sage Meru had 2 daughters named Ayati and Niyati, whom he gave in charity to Data and Vidata. Ayati and Niyati gave birth to 2 sons, Mrkanda and Prana. Text number 45. From Mrikanda, Markandeya Muni was born, and from Prana, the sage Vedashira, whose son was Ushana, was also known as Kavi, was born. Thus, Kavi also belonged to the descendants of the Prabhu dynasty. Text number 46 and 47. This has got some important quote. So I will read the shloka also. Te muneh kshattar lokan sargair abhavayan yeshakardamaddauhitra shantana katitastava Srimad Saddanasya Sadya Pavaharah Para Prasutim Manadim Daksha Upayemi Ajatmajaha. Translation says, My dear Vidura, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of the sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the description of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Another of Manu's daughters, known as Prasuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksha. So this particular translation gives the Falashruti. Falashruti means actually the benefit of reciting these names. So one who recites these names with faith will be relieved of all the sinful reactions by hearing about the dynasty of these sages and the daughters of Kardamuni. So that is why before beginning the class, I said we need to recite these names because it has got its importance in terms of outcome of the results of reciting. One reason is that all these names are somehow or the other connected to Krishna, and which we will understand how they are connected. And if without connection of Krishna, they all have no value. Srila Prabhupada always gives an example of you put even 1,000 times 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 has no value. But if you put number 1 in front of all these zeros, then it has got a high value. Similarly, anything that is connected to Krishna has value, and anything that has no connection to Krishna has no value. So all these descendants of these daughters of Manu, they have all connection to Krishna, which we will discuss in how they are connected in the forthcoming verses. Text number 48. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and one daughter was given to Agni. Text number 49 to 52. It's many verses, but I will not recite, but purport is long. I will read the purport. Translation. One of the remaining 2 daughters was given in charity to the Putraloka, where she resides very amicably, and the other was given to Lord Shiva, who is the deliverer of sinful persons from material entanglement. The names of the 13 daughters of Daksha who are given to Dharma are Shadra, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Meda, Titiksha, Hri, and Murti. These 13 daughters produced the following sons. Shraddha gave birth to Shubha, Maitri produced Prasada, Daya gave birth to Abhaya, Shanti gave birth to Sukha, Tushti gave birth to Muda, Pushti gave birth to Smaya, Kriya gave birth to Yoga, Unnati gave birth to Dharpa, Buddhi gave birth to Artha, Meda gave birth to Smriti, Titiksha gave birth to Kshema, and Hri gave birth to Prashraya. Murti is a reservoir of all the respectable qualities, gave birth to Sri Naranarayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as I mentioned in the previous verse, all have some or other connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Murti was an embodiment of all auspicious qualities, and she gave birth to Naranarayana Rishi, and she was situated in the Shuddha Sattva. So all these names of the daughters, they are all preceding deities of Sattva Guna. As you all know, there are 3 gunas, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna. So whatever names that we have discussed so far, they have been either preceding deities of Sattva Guna, or they might have been taking the position of demigods. So here, the daughters are the preceding deities of Sattva Guna. There are many qualities of Sattva Guna, and they all have preceding deities. For example, enthusiastic to perform dharmic activities. So Murti is a source of the Lord who is endowed with all auspicious qualities. That is Sri Naranarayana, text number 53. Translation Srila Prabhupada. On the occasion of the appearance of Naranarayana, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions, the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. So whenever the Supreme Lord appears, a pleasant atmosphere is always created. And just a few days back, we celebrated Janmashtami. So similar to when Lord Krishna appeared in this material world 5,000 years before, a very, very pleasant atmosphere was created. And that's how the Lord appeared. The mountains became, the rivers were full with water and waves, and the mountains were full with greenery and so forth. So similarly, when Lord appeared as Naranarayana Rishi, a very pleasant atmosphere was created. Text number 54 and 55. I'll read the translation. Slokas here. Vivyavad Janta Turyani Edu Kushuma Vistaya Muniyas Tushtuas Tushta Yagur Gandharva Kinnaraha Nityantismas Triyodevya Asit Parama Mangalam Deva Brahmadaya Sarve Upatashtur Abhishtavaihi. Translation Srila Prabhupada. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. And in this way, at the time of the appearance of Naranarayana, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers. So here we see that there were heavenly damsels like the Gandharvas and Kinnaras. These Gandharvas are actually, there's a mention in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam itself, which we'll discuss later. These Gandharvas are musicians in the upper planetary systems. They are not exactly demigods, but they are in between the demigods and human beings. So there are many planets in the heavenly planets, all the way above the Earth, earthly planet. So these Gandharvas, like we have singers who sing film songs and etc. These Gandharvas also sing sometimes in the glories of the demigods, and many times they are supposed to sing, mostly they are supposed to sing the glories of the Supreme Lord. So as you all know, in the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we discussed that Narad Muni's previous birth, he was also a Gandharva. So the abode of Kailasha, known as Kailasha, the descendants are called demigods by birth, but they have all mystic powers. So other than that, these other human beings, they are also known as Kinnarvas and Gandharvas. Of course, then there are Apsaras who are their wives who dance, which is also mentioned in this particular translation. So when Lord appeared as Naranarayana, these Gandharvas and Kinnaras sang the glories of the Lord, and the Apsaras danced to glorify the Supreme Lord as Naranarayana. Text number 56. Deva uchuhu yo mayaya virachitam nijayatma nidham he rupa vedam ivatat patichakshanaya yetena dharma sarane rishi murtina ya pradush chakara purushaya namaha parasmai. Translation Srila Prabhupada. The demigods offered prayer. The demigod said, "Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who are now appeared in the form of Narayana Rishi in the house of Dharma." So here we see that some important points are given in the purport. This universal form of the Lord, which is there in this material manifestation, is actually the cosmic manifestation itself, which is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord has got 3 energies: external energy, internal energy, and marginal energy. The internal energy are the manifestations, are through the internal energy, the Lord manifests the spiritual world, the pastimes, etc. The manifestations of this material world are made through the Lord's external energy, and we, the jivas, are in the marginal energy. Why we are called marginal energy? Because we can be placed in the internal energy of the Lord, or we can be placed in the external energy of the Lord. That is the free will that we have got. When we are placed in the devotional service to the Lord and connected to the Lord, that is the internal energy of the Lord. But when we go away from it and we engage ourselves in the activities of the illusion energy, that is Maya, that is the external energy. That is why we are called marginal energy. So the example is given in this purport that in the space there are innumerable varieties of planets and also the air. And in the air there are variously colored clouds, and sometimes we see airplanes running from one to the other. So that is how the entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety. And this variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Lord, and the energy is situated in Him only. So we see a lot of varieties in this material world, and these varieties are also manifestations of the external energy of the Lord. And that energy is situated in Him only. We will come to understand this point. The Lord actually, after manifesting in His energy, appeared within the creation of His energy itself, which is simultaneously one and different with Himself. Therefore, the demigods offered prayers to the Supreme Lord. When we say one, the Lord is within and the Lord is without, you must understand this point. When we say the Lord is within, the Lord is present as the all-pervading Paramatma, even including the atoms, and He's all-pervading everywhere. Throughout the universe, the Lord is manifest in the material creation. The Lord is manifest as Paramatma. That includes even the smallest atom to the largest possible object. That is how the Lord is situated, and He observes and witnesses all the activities of the respective individual entities. So He is within. At the same time, it is mentioned that the Lord is without. That means, though the Lord is within and is observing everything, the Lord is not affected by the creation, His own material creation which He has created. The Lord has created the material world and is observing everything as the Paramatma. For example, we observe something which may be created by the Lord's illusory energy, but we get carried away. And even though the Lord is situated within the heart as Paramatma and observing everything as a witness, the Lord does not get carried away by the three modes of material nature. He is aloof from it. So He's just observing, and He gives the reactions for all the thoughts and actions that we have, and in our next births. So this is the Lord functions as Paramatma. So that is why it is said that simultaneously one and different. So Lord is within, at the same time, the Lord is without. Without means He is not connected. Though He is created, He is not connected. So, but there are some philosophers who are called non-dualists, and because of their impersonal conception, they think that these varieties are false. Actually, whatever varieties are there, they are true. The only thing is that they are temporary in nature, whereas whatever exists in the spiritual world, they are permanent in nature, they are eternal. And also, this universal form of the Lord itself is the cosmic manifestation. And this universal form of the Lord is basically uh, a materialistic devotee. Normally, people have a misconception about the form of the Lord. Lord has got a form, but the Lord's form is not material like our form. Lord's form is Sachidananda, that is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. We are not eternal. We take birth and we die also. The Lord is always blissful, but we are not always blissful. And the Lord is full of knowledge, and we are full of ignorance. So that is how the Lord God has got a form, but His form is not material in nature, it is spiritual in nature. But in order for a common man to understand that the Lord has got form, the Lord has created this material, which is an imaginary form in this material world. That is why it is called Virat Rupa, or universal form of the Lord. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is one of the acharyas now, Sampada, he also quotes that even in these earthly planets, there are varieties of creation. Now, if we see the essence of this, the point is that even in a country, in this world, we see that varieties of creations are there. Within India itself, we might see that there are deserts in Rajasthan. There maybe if someone goes to Kashmir, there's a lot of greenery. We have a lot of fruits, apple trees going somewhere. Some places, fruits with good fruits appear. Some places, good auspicious flowers appear. Some places, inauspicious flowers appear. So there are trees, plants with auspiciousness and inauspiciousness also. And there are various shapes, sizes, and colors given to the entire creation. So the Lord manifests these varieties. And he not only manifests, he distributes these very nicely, which is very difficult for us to understand why and how. But in spite of all these, the Lord remains one without a change. Uh, and he does not change with changes in the material nature. Many times people think because the Lord has created, the Lord becomes a zero over a period of time. The Lord does not exist. But actually, the Lord does not change at all in spite of all these manifestations in this material world. The Lord manifests all these things through his energies, not by himself. He creates through Brahma. The Lord does the primary creation, and then the secondary creation is done by Brahma. And the Lord is situated in Golaka Vrindavana, performing his eternal pastimes. One of Srila Jiva Goswami, one of the Goswamis in our Sampradaya, he gives a very nice example as to how we see that when a green bird, for example, a parrot, enters a tree which is full of green leaves, this parrot goes and sits in one of the leaves of the green tree. When it sits there, from a distance, one cannot see, we see them as one. The color is one. But individually, if you see the bird is different, the leaf is different. But one might see all of them as one. So this is how the simultaneously one and different example is given. And the Lord has not only created this, he has created very many planets and very many universes with varieties of living entities. We may think that we are the only human beings, but then even in this earthly planet, we see it is Shastras say that there are 84 lakh species of life, which is true. And that description is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam, how many species of human beings, how many species of birds, how many species of animals, etc. So if in a planet like Earth, there are so many varieties of living entities, why can't there be varieties of species of living entities in other planets? In this Earth, which is the smallest, we see even in this Earth, there are so many heavenly planets, and there are living entities in all of them. Now, we gave the names of so many in these descendants. All of them, many of them have taken up the position of demigods. And all the demigods also they live in these heavenly planets. We are not aware of, but every activity that we perform, there are so many things that are taking place in the material nature. And for every object, for every aspect, there is a demigod who is in charge. So there are innumerable of them, and we can't count them. So similarly, there are a lot of universes that are created with variegated nature and variegated living entities. When Lord Mahavishnu lying in the ocean of Karunadakasai ocean, from his breathing, when he exhales, millions of universes come out in the form of bubbles through the pores of his body and through his nostrils. So from this we must, and ours is the smallest universe, and within the smallest universe, this Earth planet is the smallest. From that we must understand how the Lord's creation is very vast. At the same time, they've got a lot of variegatedness. Living entities are there in all these universes. And as we see, even scientists, they send people to moon, and so they are trying to send to other planets. One thing, even they are concluding that there are living entities everywhere. They are unable to discover what type of living entities are there and who are there. But Shastras describe in detail that how these planets are situated, which are the universes, and so forth. So the Lord is simultaneously one and different from the creation. So the universe is within Krishna, and Krishna is within the universe. So this is the inconceivable potency of the Lord. And this verse also described that Naranarayan Rishi is the origin of material nature, because He is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which we will discuss in the coming verses. And this universal form of the Lord, which we call as Virat Rupa, is an expansion of Garbhodakasaya Vishnu. So those of you who don't know, if I mentioned about Karanodakasaya Vishnu, where Sri Mahavishnu lies in the Karna ocean, and from his exhaling comes many universes. From Sri Mahavishnu, he further expands as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu and enters into each and every universe and into each and every planet as the Paramatma feature. So the super soul of the each and every universe is Garbhodakasaya Vishnu. And from Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, he further expands as Kshirodakasaya Vishnu and enters into each and every living entity as the Paramatma feature. So the universal form of the Lord or the Virat Rupa is an expansion of the Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, and it is an imaginary material form of the Lord. So impersonalists think that there is material world is all in all, and beyond this there is nothing. But actually everything is existing in the spiritual world. And generally people think that what we see is the ultimate, but what we see in this material, the creations of the Lord, are partial reflections of what exactly exists in the spiritual world. What is existing in the spiritual world is the original reality, but whatever is there in the material world is a reflection of what exists in the spiritual world. This is how the Shastras describe. Now we go to text number 57. Toyam Siri Gati Karo Pashamaya Maya Shrishtan Satverana Suraguna Ganan Anumeya Tatvaha Drishyat Ata Prakarunena Vilokanena Yachri Niketam Amalam Shipatara Vindham. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of the created world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. His merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. Some important points are there in this particular verse. We will discuss, we'll go through that. So the demigods are praying, let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature. So the Lord cannot be understood by our material speculation or by any material means. The Lord can be understood only through authorized Vedic literature. And this is the same Lord who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of this created world. And the demigods are praying that let the Lord be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. So it is said that it is very difficult to understand the Supreme Godhead. We can't understand even the demigods, what to talk about understanding the Supreme God. So Shastra has explained that in order to understand, one has to go through three aspects. One, that is Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. One must go through the Shastras to understand the nature and form and appearance of the Supreme Lord. And just by reading a Vedic literature, one cannot understand the nature, form and appearance of the Lord. It requires the guidance of a Guru and also a Sadhu. So that is why it is said that without Sadhu Shastra, one cannot understand this Vedic science. If we see, even if you take a book of geography or science, if you take science as a subject, one cannot understand science because it has got a lot of technicalities. It needs a teacher to guide us through. So that is why it is said one should have a guide. And in terms of spiritual matter, it is said that one should always require a guru, because a guru is connected eternally to his disciple. So that's why it is said Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. And here the demigods are praying that the Lord may glance upon them. So it's a point mentioned that the Lord's merciful glance can supersede even the beauty of a spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. So the lotus flower is the home of the goddess of fortune. And if the moment the Lord gives his merciful glance, it can defeat even the beauty of the spotless lotus flower. That is how the Lord's glance is a great mercy on whom he glances. So examples are that one may personally endeavor to go near the Lord, But without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the ultimate point. Many times we may go to the temple and we may be even standing very close to the Lord. But it does not mean that we have seen the Lord and we have understood the Lord. No, because the Lord cannot be seen with our material eyes. Before seeing through the material eyes, it is said that one must hear through his ears. And then at one point of time, when all of one's anarthas are purified, one may reach a point, one may be able to see the Lord. That's also not guaranteed in one birth. That is how the Lord is. So the Lord is also present as the all-pervading super soul within our heart. But still, so though the Lord is situated in our own heart as the super soul, we are not able to see him or even able to recognize him. We try to see every small little thing that is available in this world through a microscope or read through so many books to understand small things. But we are not able to see the Lord or realize that the Lord is present within our heart. So that is how the Lord is inconceivable. And through any scientific instruments, whatever it may be, one cannot know the Lord or see the Lord also. And the Lord has created millions and millions of universes. But he knows, as a witness, each and every thought of every living entity and every act of the living entity. So people also try to practice yoga. But the Ashtanga yoga practice was very familiar in the Satya Yoga, when people used to practice and try to meditate on the four-handed form of the Lord situated in our heart as Paramatma. But now that has also become a mechanical means, but the Lord does not reveal himself to such people. The Lord reveals himself only to a pure devotee out of his own free will. So as I mentioned before, Lord does not have a material body. He's got a spiritual body which is transcendent to three modes of material nature. That's why with our blunt eyes, we cannot see him. Similarly, it is said that pure devotees of the Lord have a spiritual body just like the Lord. There is an example given that one time Ravana approached Narad Muni, and he asked Narad Muni that you must teach me the spiritual subject matters. Narad Muni ignored. Again, Ravana approached Narad Muni to teach him spiritual science. Narad Muni ignored. Third time, Narad Muni took up a sword and tried to pierce the sword through Narad Muni's body. But nothing happened to Narad Muni because he had a spiritual body, and so no harm could be done. So spiritual matter cannot be learned by force. It needs humility, one's humility to understand the subject matter. Even in material world, it is said that people don't reveal everything to everyone. But what to talk about spiritual matters. And another example given is that in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, when the Lord was physically present about 5,000 years before, though the Lord was present, Duryodhana could not understand the Lord in front of him. Duryodhana, in fact, wanted to arrest the Lord. In the case of Kamsa, he was looking at the Lord as a king. Shishupal looked at the Lord as an enemy. But on the other hand, in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, there's a mention that the Lord's incarnation as Vyasadeva, he sat under a berry tree in Badrikashrama, and he fixed his mind perfectly by linking it through devotional service without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead. And not only he saw the personality of Godhead, he saw also his external energy, which was under the full control of the Lord. So Vyasadeva, when he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are discussing, he meditated on that Lord, and finally he could see the Lord as also the external energy of the Lord, which was under the control of the Lord himself. Similar example is given in the case of Narad Muni, which we also discussed. Narad Muni was a very small boy, and he was sitting under a banyan tree, and he started meditating on the super soul within the heart, using the intelligence that was given by the Lord. The Lord himself tells in Bhagavad Gita, I give the intelligence by which a living being can come back to me. And as soon as he started meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, Narad Muni's mind got transformed and tears started coming out of his eyes. Because he was a small boy, he was innocent. Many times we see that small children in their young age, they are all very innocent. So their smile is also innocent, and it looks very beautiful. But the moment they grow up, the smile also has got an artificial indication. We see that when somebody smiles, there is some other cause behind it. So that is how, when someone is innocent and situated in the mode of goodness, there is no duplicity. Otherwise, we all tend to have duplicity because we have something called externals and we have got something called internals. It is also said that Brahma got initiated with mantra and he was in meditation for 1000 celestial years. And finally, when the Lord was pleased with him, the Lord revealed his kingdom. And the second canto, we find that Sukadev Goswami telling Parikshit Maharaj, the Lord being pleased by the devotional service of Brahma, revealed his form, transcendental form, and also the Vaikuntha planets. So it is not very easy to see the Lord or understand the Lord's abode, etc. But then, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of the acharyas in our Sampradaya, the spiritual master of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned that one should not try to see the Lord, but rather one should try to render service in a way that the Lord wants to see us. So if the Lord is pleased with our devotion service, the Lord will also reveal himself and his pastimes, etc. Another that point that is mentioned is that the Lord is the supreme cause of all the causes. Generally, people tend to think that nature is the cause of all the causes, but actually the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. Also, the Lord appears out of his costly mercy to reclaim conditioned souls who are at least in the mode of goodness. This is a reference from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. The Lord is pleased to at least reclaim the Lord. But one of the reasons for the appearance of the Lord in various incarnations is to reclaim conditioned souls. We'll discuss some of the pastimes of Narayana Rishi also. And at least those who are in the mode of goodness, the Lord tries to deliver them or reclaim. There is also a mention in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where the residents of Jambudvipa, they offer prayers to the Lord. They say that the Supreme Lord is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction. So the Lord is the cause of creation. He creates through Brahma, he maintains through Lord Vishnu, and he also annihilates through Lord Shiva. And though he is the creator, he is not bound by the laws of creation. We, the living entities, are bound by the laws of creation, but the Lord is not bound by the laws of creation. The Lord is situated in pure goodness, which is transcendental to the three modes. Now, though the living entities are entrapped in the material body, even though the Lord appears in this material world, the Lord is not entrapped in this material world. Once, as you see, when we come to this material world, we are entrapped in the material body and we go through the laws of karma, etc. But the Lord is not entrapped when he appears in this material world. Also, as I mentioned, the Lord does not get carried away by the three modes of material nature, but the three modes of material nature are acting under his control. Example is given. For example, somebody may be in the mode of goodness, and if he goes with somebody, say to a club, he may not feel very comfortable to be in the club because he's in the mode of goodness. At the same time, if we see somebody may be in the mode of ignorance, for example, a gambler, as soon as he enters the gambling den, he immediately gets attracted to that. So this is how the living entities are entrapped in the material nature. And also one point that is mentioned is that one of the reasons that are for discussing the names of the rishis and the demigods, because they are all connected to the Lord somehow or the other, somewhere or the other. Otherwise, there is no relevance for us. Text number 58. Maitreya said, translation Srila Prabhupada here, O Vidura, thus the demigods worship with prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as the says in Aranarayana. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for Gandhamadana hill. So we will go through some of the pastimes of Narayana Rishi. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, a reference is given. Normally, before we start a Bhagavatam class, we recite Narayanam Namaskritya, Naram Chaiva Narottamam, Devim Saraswatim Divyasam, Tato Jaya Mudire. The translation is before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very means of conquest, one should offer prayers, respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva the author. So we offer our obeisances and prayers to Naranarayana Rishi also. That is how they are very important. And then there is a mention also that in the fourth incarnation, the Lord became Nara and Narayana, the twin sons of the wife of King Dharma. So thus, the Lord undertook severe and exemplary penances to control the senses. So Nara, the portion, is a portion of Narayana, appeared in the family of Kurus, and that Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, came as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Nara Narayana, Nara is actually Arjuna, and Narayana is none other than Krishna, who appeared as Narayana. And he appeared for the purpose of delivering suffering humanity from the pangs of material world. In other words, Narayana Rishi was now present in the world in the form of Krishna and Arjuna. So this is how Narayana, that means Arjuna and Krishna are manifest as Nara and Narayana. Then in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a mention. In his expansion as Naranarayana Rishi, the Lord always resides in Badrikashrama for the good of the whole land of Bharata. And so he may also create good fortune for the land of Mithila by remaining here for at least a few days. So it is said that in Badrikashrama, Naranarayana Rishi is still performing tapasya. Like I mentioned, we may not be able to see the form of Narayana, but people go to Badrikashrama, and this is where the Lord is manifest in this form. But the Lord is still present there, performing tapasya for the benefit of mankind. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a mention, one pastime is there. One time, Kindra, Naranarayana, as I mentioned, they perform a lot of tapasya. Whenever any great rishis perform tapasya, the first person to get buried is none other than Indra, the king of heaven. So seeing the austerities of Narayana Rishi, Indra sent Cupid as a very honored guest. And this Cupid then went there and offered a lot of glorious prayers to Narayana Rishi. And this Cupid actually showed himself in the form of very glorious, beautiful feminine forms. But Narayana Rishi did not get carried away by these. On the other hand, what happened was, Indra actually underestimated this Narayana Rishi. He didn't know whom this Narayana Rishi was. So he wanted somehow to disturb this tapasya of Narayana Rishi. So when he sent Cupid himself tried to attack the Lord with arrows in the form of many beautiful women. But what happened was that the Lord is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. The Lord did not get carried away. But on the other hand, the Lord created one more heavenly damsel, the name of Urvashi, and offered this to Indra. Now, Indra was attached to a heavenly kingdom. That is why he was thinking how to destroy the tapasya of Narayana Rishi. But on the other hand, Lord did not get disturbed by Cupid in the form of beautiful women. But the Lord created a beautiful woman in the name of Urvashi and gave it to Indra, who is still known as the heavenly damsel. In fact, Narayana tells Indra, do not fear, O mighty Madan, O wind god and wives of the demigod. Rather, please accept these gifts I am offering you and sanctify my ashrama by your presence. The point is that the Lord rather expressed his humility by informing Indra, please accept this small gift that I am giving it to you. And my ashrama has become purified by your presence. So this is how Indra tried to destroy Narayana's tapasya. Another nice pastime is there in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. there's a mention that this Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of all the Puranas, was spoken by the infallible Narayana Rishi to Narada Muni, who then repeated it to Krishna, the Vaipayana Vedavyasa. There is also a mention in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about another pastime wherein the Lord bestowed his mercy to Markandeya Rishi. You all might have heard in the beginning also I mentioned about the Markanda, who is known as Markandeya Rishi. Markandeya Rishi was one of the great rishis, and it so happened that Markandeya Rishi performed a lot of tapasya. He actually had a desire to see the Lord's illusory energy. And for that, he wanted to see the Lord and also the pastimes of the Lord. So he performed a lot of tapasya, and he offered many prayers. Being satisfied by the prayers offered by Markandeya Rishi, the Lord appeared as a small boy. You might have seen this picture in the leaf of a banyan tree in Badrikashrama. So the Lord asked him to take a benediction. What is it that you want? Markandeya Rishi said that I want to see your illusory energy. So the Lord took the form of this Narayana Rishi and said, so be it. Then the Lord left for Badrikashrama. So as Markandeya was offering his evening prayers, suddenly a water of devastation came in, and everything was devastated excepting that banyan tree. And in one of the banyan tree leaves, the Lord was situated as a small boy. The Lord immediately picked up his toe with one of his hands, and then he put it into his mouth, which is also a picture that we many times we see. Just like a mosquito is drawn into the body, within one's body, similarly the Lord inhaled Markandeya Rishi, and immediately Markandeya Rishi saw the entire universe within the body of the Lord. And within no time, the Lord exhaled, and by that force of exhalation, Markandeya Rishi was thrown out. So for a moment, Markandeya Rishi went inside the body of the Lord. He saw the entire universe creation, everything, manifestation of the Lord, and then immediately with the Lord's exhalation, Markandeya Rishi came out. Then Markandeya Rishi saw that the child on the leaf was none other than the Lord Hari himself, the transcendental Lord, situated within his own heart. Then Markandeya Rishi actually tried to embrace the Lord, but at that time the Lord immediately disappeared, and the waters of annihilation also disappeared. And Markandeya Rishi found himself, isolated himself in that ashrama just as before. So this is one pastime that happened with Markandeya Rishi. And Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, in one of his commentaries in that 12th canto, says that this young child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna himself. So many devotees, the Lord thinks that, he comments, Lord Krishna wondered, so many devotees are hankering for the nectar of my lotus feet. Therefore, let me also personally experience that nectar which devotees are aspiring for. So thus the Lord played like an ordinary baby, began to suck his own toes. So Lord was thinking, so many people are aspiring to see my lotus feet and desiring to taste the nectar of my lotus feet. So let me also taste what is that nectar is there in my feet. So Lord began to suck his toes and reveal this pastime to Markandeya Rishi. Then we go to the next sloka. Once again. Yeah, text number 60. The translation is, the predominant deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha 3 children named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi, who exist by eating the oblations offered to the fire of sacrifice. So as we see that whenever we offer sacrifices, we say Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. So this Swaha is also one personality. And she gave birth to 3 children called Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi. And they exist by eating the oblations offered to the fires of sacrifice. So many times we see in the yajna, oblations are offered, that is taken, honored by these 3 daughters of Swaha. Text number 61. From those 3 sons, another 45 descendants were generated who are also fire gods. The total number of fire gods therefore is 49, including the fathers and the grandfather. So you see that normally we know that there is an Agni, but we know that there is only Agni. There are so many fire gods. We see that numbering to 49, and further the descendants keep going on. So in the text number 62, those 49 fire gods are the beneficiaries of the oblations offered in the Vedic sacrificial fire by impersonalist Brahmanas. So Brahmanas offer a lot of oblations on fire sacrifices, and there are 49 fire gods who accept these sacrifices. And each and everyone is an individual personality themselves. Text number 63. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Agnishvatas, the Barhishadas, the Saumyas, and the Ajyapas are the Pitas. They are either Sagnika or Niragnika. The wife of all these Pitas is Svada, who is the daughter of King Daksha. So, as you all might be knowing by now, and when we human beings, when we leave the body, generally we go to a planet called Pitraloka, which is handled by many Pitas, where Pitas go after leaving the body. So Pitraloka is also a planet which is above the earthly planet. And this Pita, one of them is the Svada. Text number 64. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Svada, who was offered to the Pitas, begot 2 daughters named Vayuna and Dharini, both of whom were impersonalists and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. Text number 65. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she always faithfully engaged in the service of her husband. So one of the daughters of this thing was Sati, who became the wife of Lord Shiva. Now she could not bear a child, though she engaged fully in the service of Lord Shiva. We will discuss in the next sloka. Last sloka, that is text number 66. Pitari apratirupe shve bhavya nagase rusha aprodaivatmanatmanam ajahad yoga samyuta. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The reason is that Sati's father Daksha used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of yogic mystic power. So we'll understand a little bit from this. And the Prabhupada mentioned that Lord Shiva, being the head of all mystic yogis, never even constructed a home for his residence. Now the point is that Brahma asked Brahma asked Daksha to offer his daughter in marriage, Sati, to Shiva. So Daksha agreed and he got his daughter married. Now what happens is that we will understand in detail in the next chapter, but to summarize it, Daksha was basically a materialist person who identifies himself with body and materialistic activities. Now Lord Shiva, on the other hand, was a great Vaishnava. We say that Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho. Of all the Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva is the greatest. Now Brahma requested Daksha to give his daughter Sati in marriage to Shiva, and Daksha agreed. Now, from the time of Daksha knew that Lord Shiva actually lives in a very non-opulent way. He does not wear nice clothes. He lives in the forest. Wears a snake on his neck. Wears minimal clothes, say, like a deer skin, etc. And he always in a renowned state of affairs. When Daksha was being a materialist, he was one of the progenitors also, causes of progeny. So he, being a materialist, he thought that he looked at Lord Shiva as a material, from the material point of view. Whereas Lord Shiva, being a great devotee of the Lord, he was on a renounced position. He did not even construct a house of his own. So Daksha was upset that with Lord Shiva, he was thinking that my son-in-law is like this, so and so, so and so. He underestimated Lord Shiva's spiritual potency. He looked at him from the material point of view. So this created an envy in him on Lord Shiva. And as you all know, an envy of a Vaishnava is the greatest offense which the Lord himself does not like. So when Daksha performed a sacrifice, first time he did not invite, one time he did not invite Shiva. And Sati didn't want to, Sati wanted to go to that particular sacrifice because all her mother, her sisters were all coming and many relatives were coming. Lord Shiva persuaded her not to go, being her faithful husband. But Sati was very adamant that she wanted to go. Lord Shiva knew exactly what was going to happen, but she did not realize that. So she went, finally, when she went to the sacrifice, she saw that there was no place for Lord Shiva. And the sacrifice, which was, because all the demigods are supposed to participate in a sacrifice organized by anyone, which is a practice even understood today. And then after the sacrifice is over, the demigods partake of that sacrifice, of the oblation that are offered. But Lord Shiva was neither was he invited nor was he given his share of the sacrifices. So on the other hand, so when Sati saw this, she got very, very upset and she felt insulted. And it is said that she did not even grow in her age. She was a young girl. And seeing this finally insult, finally she gave up her body. And this whole chapter we see, in this coming chapter, we'll see that when Sati gave up her body, many associates of Lord Shiva accompanied Sati. They wanted to take revenge on Daksha. They destroyed the whole sacrifices. There was a battle between Daksha, his followers, and Lord Shiva's followers. And in the process, uh, uh, Lord Shiva created a demon in the name of Virabhadra, who created a havoc in Daksha's sacrifice. And finally, they cut off Daksha's head. And afterwards, it was replaced with a goat's head because Daksha was envious of Lord Shiva. And finally, after being given a goat's head, Daksha was revived back. And when he was given a goat's head, the first person that Daksha saw was none other than Lord Shiva. But what happened was he became free of envy of Lord Shiva. And then he realized that, yes, it was his mistake of his envy towards Lord Shiva. And finally, he also realized that, yes, this particular act created by Shiva was to correct Daksha's position. So this is how Sati gave up her body due to the insult given by Daksha, who was her own father. This is, in a nutshell, the second half of the table of the daughters of Manu. So for the next few, with this, I conclude the class for the day. There were not too many purports. I tried to explain whatever was possible. This I conclude the class for the day. Anybody has got any questions, any comments, they can ask me.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, that was Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danda Mataji.
Prabhuji, during the class, you mentioned that the lotus flower is this goddesses of fortune.
Yes.
Does it represent the goddesses of fortune? Is the goddesses of fortune seated in it? Because usually all the Lord and everybody has the lotus flower in the hand.
Lotus is very dear to the Lord because it is the most beautiful flower that we see in this material world. In this purport, it is also mentioned that this lotus is the home of the goddess of fortune. That could also be one of the reasons.
No, it's the home of it is the goddesses of fortune, because I heard it as you said.
It is a home of, it is said that it is a home of goddess of fortune.
Yeah, home of. Okay, I'm sorry, I heard it wrong. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Manas. Any other questions? Anybody else?
Prabhuji, after Daksha realized his mistake, then did he continue to have the goat's head, or somebody gave him a human head again? I mean,
no. We will come to that little more in detail, but the only detail at the moment I can give you is that Daksha's head was cut off, but then a goat's head was given, but still his consciousness was there as it is. He did not lose his consciousness, even though he was given a goat's head. But he realized that his mistake after he got it.
But
his consciousness remained. His consciousness remained
he didn't
the same.
elevate his consciousness?
He didn't lose his consciousness, which we will discuss in this chapter.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Anybody else? So if no more questions or comments, can I take the class as closed?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna,
Thank you very
Prabhuji,
much.
thank you, Dandavat
Dandavat
Pranam.
Pranam. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna
Dandavat
Prabhu,
Pranam.
Dhanavad Pranam. Thank you very much. Thank
Dandavat
you.
Pranam. Thank you all very much.